Hey guys, there are around 1.4 billion people in China. A lot of them are gamers, and according to Tech Report, 65% of Steam users are using simplified Chinese as their display language. And when they decide to upgrade their old video cards, especially internet cafes, they end up being sold on places such as eBay or AliExpress. Unfortunately, many of these video cards are fake and trying to scam you. We looked at two such cards last year. We've got the GTX 960 here that turned out to be a GTX 450, and we've got a GTX 750 here, which turned out to be a GTX 550 Ti. But today we're looking at 4 cheap brands from China that are legit. These are from known brands. We have Galaxy, Gigabyte, and also Asus. Ostalks Hardware tweeted about some cheap GTX 750 cards from AliExpress, so I bought a few of these video cards, including one Radeon for all the ATI and AMD fans out there. He already did a cool video about this, and also seeing that there are already a ton of GTX 750 versus 1030 type videos out there, we are going to look at the performance under Windows XP with retro gaming in mind. But just in general, a GTX 750 Ti is faster than the GT 1030 in modern games. We're using a fast Intel Haswell-based test machine with a motherboard from Asus. We've got the Pentium Anniversary Edition, 4GB of memory in dual channel configuration, and we're using a SSD. I'm also using a 1920 by 1200 monitor to give these video cards a bit of a workout. We have benchmark results, of course, but before that we will look at each card, going over the specifications and anything interesting to talk about. So the first video card is a GTX 650. I paid $30 last year off eBay, including postage, but the card was extremely filthy, so I put in a claim and I got $10 off, which was fair enough. The card is still quite dirty despite me giving it a proper clean. The card turned out to be from Galaxy. It mentions assetgalaxy.com on the sticker, and I went to the website and eventually found the matching model with these specifications. So the card has one DVI, HDMI, and a VGA port. The core clock is 1059 MHz. We've got 1GB of VRAM, GDDR5 with 5000 MHz of effective clock speed, and 80 GB per second of memory bandwidth. The card does require a 6-pin power connector here. And yep, card worked fine, and we will have a look at the benchmark results very soon. The next video card is a GTX 750 from Gigabyte. I paid $38.88, including shipping. This is the OC model, so we've got a slightly higher clocks, 1059 base clock and 1137 boost clock. We have 512 shaders, 1GB of GDDR5 memory with 5012 MHz effective clock speed, and a memory bandwidth of 80.2 GB per second. We have 2 DVI ports, 2 HDMI ports, and this card also requires a 6-pin power connector. It has a very nice 10 cm 100mm cooling fan, and it's really whisper quiet, so that's well done. In terms of software, I had a look on the website. They do have some OC Guru 2 software, but it doesn't run under Windows XP. It needs at least Windows 7 or higher, so there's no overclocking software from Gigabyte that works under Windows XP. So the second Gigabyte card, this is the GTX 750 Ti. We have a non-OC model here. So the base clock is 1020 MHz and the boost clock 1085. We have 640 shaders and double the VRAM, 2GB of GDDR5 with an effective clock speed of 5400 MHz, which gives us 86.4 GB per second of memory bandwidth. Everything else is just like the non-TI, so dual DVI, dual HDMI. It's got the same 100mm fan, which is nice and quiet, and also a 6-pin power connector for this video card. Now the GTX 750 Ti is the only card I recommend if you're looking at any of these cards for modern gaming. It's the only one with 2GB of VRAM, 1GB is just not cutting it. And in terms of performance, this will outperform a GT 1030. And we have our Radeon. This is the Asus HD 7770 for $34.76 from AliExpress. They also have a slightly larger version with the direct CU heat pipe cooling solution. That version is a little bit clocked higher with the core. I don't have that card. it's $39.99. So what I did, I simply overclocked this card to match the specifications. So you will see results for both of these cards. Radeon cards are quite interesting for Windows XP retro gaming. The drivers are a little bit better than the ones from Nvidia. We have GPU scaling options, you can create custom resolutions, and if you're using an HDMI display device, you can toggle between limited and full RGB. All of these options used to be available in the Nvidia drivers, but with the later versions, they stopped supporting that stuff. So here we have 950 MHz of core clock, we have 640 shaders, 1 GB of GDDR5 memory with 4600 MHz effective clock speed, giving us 73.6 GB per second of memory bandwidth. We have DVI, VGA and HDMI, and there is a 6-pin power connector. A little bit unfortunate, it's right at the front of the card, but otherwise this is also a 28nm card like all the other ones, so it shouldn't draw a lot of power. And coming back to the DirectCU version with the heat pipes, the only difference is the core clock is higher. We've got 1020 MHz, but the amount of shaders and memory speed, that is all the same. The connectors are also slightly different. We've got DVI, HDMI and 2 mini display ports. And Asus actually has Windows XP compatible overclocking software on their website, so that's awesome. It goes under the name of Asus GPU Tweak Utility, and you can just download it by selecting Windows XP as the operating system. Time for some benchmarks. The green bars are of course the GeForce cards, and in red we've got our Radeons. First up we got 3D Mark 2001 SE, and we can see these 750 cards pull in front a little bit, but all of these cards deliver excellent performance. Next up we've got 03, and we can see the 650 is falling behind a little bit, and the 750 cards once again a little bit in front. In 05 we can see the same thing. The GeForce cards are a little bit in front of the Radeon cards, with the GTX 650 being the slowest one. Now we're moving on to games. At the top of the chart you can see which game we're talking about, including the settings for the test. So here we can see all of the cards delivering over 180 FPS, so it really doesn't matter which card you go for. The 750 cards once again are a little bit in front. Far Cry is another game that runs extremely well, over 100 FPS once again, so it doesn't matter which card you go for with this game. In X2 the Threat we can see a bit of a spread with the 750 cards pulling ahead. The 650 once again is the slowest of the bunch, and the Radeons nicely in the middle. Doom 3 is another game that runs well on all of these cards. It's only the GTX 650 which doesn't quite hit the 180 FPS mark, but all the other cards delivering over 200 FPS. The next game is Fear, and this is a game with the 750 cards being quite a bit stronger, between 30 and 40% faster than the Radeon cards, and even the 650 does really well, almost matching the two Radeons. Well, those are some nice video cards, but can they run Crysis? Yes, they can. 1920 by 1080 with high details. Unfortunately, all of these cards struggle a little bit. It's really only the 750 cards that can deliver more than 60 FPS. With all the other cards, you have to lower resolution or detail settings in order to hit that level of performance. So you've seen the results, and all of these video cards deliver excellent performance for Windows XP retro gaming. It's really only once they run into Crysis that performance suffers, but Crysis is a very extreme game, and ideally you're going to play it under a Windows system with DirectX 10 anyway. So now let's talk about prices, value and recommendations. First up, the GTX 650. Well, it only cost me $20, but that was only after I put in a dispute because it was absolutely filthy and I had to spend quite a bit of effort to clean it. So for $30, it's probably not good value because you can just spend $8 or $10 more and you get a 750 or the Radeon. So unless you can pick this up for like $20, I wouldn't recommend going for it. So next up we got to talk about the 750 Ti, and here it really depends on what you're going to do. For Windows XP retro gaming, it's not worth the premium. 2 GB of VRAM, it's not something that Windows XP games take advantage of. I could see no such evidence in any of my benchmarks, and it costs quite a bit more. However, if you are considering getting a video card for more modern stuff, Windows 10 and playing modern games, then the 750 Ti is the only card I would recommend. However, we're focusing on Windows Windows XP performance. So in that regard, the 750 Ti is not good value. I recommend you just go with the regular 750. It's a lot cheaper, under $40, and delivers excellent performance. And then we have the Radeon card, and that card costs similar amounts of money, but the benefit are really the drivers being able to have working GPU scaling, as well as the HDMI color space options, and creating custom resolutions also works just fine. So that's one of the reasons why you might consider the Radeon card over the 750, despite the 750 being a little bit faster. Having said that, all of these video cards, you've seen the results, they all deliver 100 FPS plus, so really it doesn't matter which one you go for. So it boils down to other aspects. In terms of noise, the 750 with the 100mm fan, they are basically inaudible. The Radeon card was quite a bit louder, and the temperature, depending on the temperature, the fan speed will vary. So maybe going for the direct CU version with the heat pipes is a better way. Maybe their cooling solution is quieter, but I don't have that card, so I can't really comment on it. Both of these cards are kind of dual slot. The 750 has a dual slot bracket. The Radeon doesn't, but it's not a single slot card. The cooler is a little bit bulky, so you can't put a PCI card or PCI Express card right next to the video card. You have to skip one of these slots. But otherwise, in terms of outputs, you get VGA on the Radeon, which is nice, whereas on the 750 you have to use a DVI to VGA dongle, which is not a big deal, but also worth mentioning. So really it's up to you to choose between these cards. But these two get my pick in terms of overall value for Windows XP retro gaming. And that's really it for this video, guys. Let me know what you think about these video cards. I will put the AliExpress links down below in the description, so you can buy exactly the same models from the same seller that I bought them from. And yeah, do let me know what you think. Maybe you've got one of these cards already. And if you see any other good deals on cheap video cards from China, let me know. I might buy a few more and do a bigger roundup in a future video. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, click on the notification bell so you get updates for future videos. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you soon with another